Hello and welcome to the final week of your dashboard or say Power BI for data visualization course. I know in class you must have calculated some metrics before now. You also have looked at modeling and all, but this video I intend to show you from the DAX creation and charts visualization aspect of this project. This is the project on the hotel data, and I have already created all the dimensions. We have the date dimension, the hotel dimension, the hotel data, which is your facts table, the location dimension, and market segments, as well as main cost. Mind you, in your own case, you may not um, title these dimensions and the fact table exactly the way I've titled mine. The most important thing is that you've created the dimensions and your relationship is intact. Let's check the model view to see the relationship. So this is the ERD, and you can see that the type of schema we have here is a star schema where all the dimensions are connected to the fact table, which is the hotel data. All right, before we start with the metrics creation, I'd like to share my own set of business questions and the documents that we are all supposed to work on from week one, one of the assignments in week one that's instructed us to create business questions. So it's important that before you begin any analysis, you should generate business questions that you intend to answer with the data set you're working with, or the data set, or create a question and then get set of data to answer those questions. In my own case, I have prepared 10 questions and I titled this document as Data-Driven Insights to Enhance Hotel Revenue and Customer Experience. With a very short introduction to this document, it says this report outlines analytical questions designed to guide data exploration and decision-making for hotel chain seeking to enhance revenue and customer satisfaction. You can see that these are the key points that we hope to capture even from the problem statement. So it was also captured in my question generation. I put the main objective of the project in mind while drafting these questions. By analyzing this, excuse me, by analyzing patterns in the hotel booking data set, management can uncover actionable insights in pricing, customer behavior, and operational efficiency. Here are my business questions. I have about 10 of them, like I said. The first one is, what are the seasonal booking trends across different hotel types? I'm looking at the two hotels captured in our data set, Resort and City Hotel. And this question would help us to identify peak and off-peak seasons for demand forecasting and pricing strategy. How does the average daily rate ADR vary by booking channel? The various booking channels we have are online TA, direct, offline TA, and so forth. This question would help us to determine which sales channels are most profitable and where to focus marketing efforts. The third question I have here is, what is the cancellation rate by market segments and country of region? This question will be able to identify high-risk customer segments and countries prone to cancellations. The fourth question is, what factors, lead time, booking channel, deposit type, are most associated with booking cancellations? With this question, we will be able to build predictive models for reducing cancellations and improving booking reliability. Now you can go on and on up to the 10th question, which I have captured. Now I didn't stop by generating just the question as instructed in the classroom. We are also required to highlight some of the insights that will be getting from the questions being answered, as well as the benefits to the management. So here are the key insights and expected outcomes. The first key insight I have highlighted here is the booking trends. Seasonal and temporal analysis will reveal peak and off-peak periods enabling better resource allocation and targeted promotions. We also have another key insight, which is revenue optimization. By studying the ADR across booking channels and customer types helps prioritize high value segments and identify underperforming ones. We also want to get under key insight on cancellation drivers, customer segmentation, and operational efficiency. So what are the strategic benefits to the management? I captured a few of them here to help the management to understand revenue growth. That is, the dynamic pricing models can be designed based on demand forecast and the lead time behavior. And one of the questions that I captured there, when they know the seasonal trend from different hotel across different hotels, they will be able, and when they identify the peak and off season demand, they can forecast correctly, or not necessarily forecast, they can actually set their price correctly for peak and off peak periods to optimize their revenue. Then reduced cancellations, targeted retention, and prepayment strategies can be implemented for high risk segments. Enhanced guest experience, operational planning. Now, with this document put in place, even before I start any analysis, I have so much guide on what to do and what to expect from my analysis. So this document will also help me to touch on the key points and the vital aspects of the problem statement that would, in return, give insight and help the decision makers make informed decisions. Now, I did stop at just drafting the business questions and key insights and strategic benefits. I went further to highlight some KPIs that will help me to answer some of these problems or questions and solve some of the problems. So here are the KPIs in my document, and this is something that I would also advise you to do as a data analyst. Before you start working on any project, you must understand the problem statement so well that you can generate all of these, documents ahead of your analysis. So the KPIs I've crafted are broken into 7 sections. I looked at KPIs around occupancy and demand metrics, revenue and financial performance, KPIs that can, focus on cancellation and booking behavior. That's the third one. The fourth one, customer profile and experience, market and channel performance, KPIs on operationals and strategic KPIs. Then finally, composite performance indicators. These are referred to as some executive KPIs. Now, in this part of this video, to keep the video short, I don't want to make it so long, so I'm going to break it into different parts. We will focus on the first 3 KPIs: occupancy and demand metrics, revenue and financial performance, and cancellation and booking behavior. So let's start with the first KPI, with the first section of KPI, occupancy and demand metrics. So under this occupancy and demand metrics, we'll be calculating total booking, total volume, or booking volume rather, cancelled bookings, average length of stay, weekend versus weekday stay ratio. And these are the formulas I have presented here that we'll be using to answer this, plus the purpose and the insights that we've gotten from each of the KPIs. For total booking, to measure the total bookings the hotels have recorded within the space of 3 years, while the booking volume will indicate overall demand and booking trends. The cancelled booking will indicate the number of cancelled bookings and cancellation trends. Average length of stay would help to understand how long guests typically stay, which will be used for planning and pricing, and so on and so forth. So let's head on to Power BI as we get on with this. And at this point, I think I would share my entire screen because I want to show you something about creating KPIs or your metric. All right. So to do this, remember that we have already given a best practice about creating metrics and KPIs or measures. You said in the class during your training that when you are ready to create your metrics, or your KPIs, it's very important that you create a table, a blank table that will host all of these KPIs. So I would go ahead and do that by clicking on the enter data icon under the home menu. Click enter data button, and that will pop this window up, create table window. From here, you give the name of your KPI. So, well, you call it anything, you can call it measures, metrics, and so on. So I'd like to call my metrics, and I'll put KPI in a bracket, KPIs. All right. You can also call it KPIs if you wish. So once I click on load, my table will be created, and we'll have it display among the list of data of tables we have. So this is our metrics table, which is happens to be the last table right here. So all the KPIs that we'll be creating will fall in this table. For now, I can go ahead and share my just one window, so that whenever I switch to meet, there won't be any disruption. Okay, when you look at this table right now, you can see it's blank. I have column one, which contains nothing. So let's start off by creating the first metric, which is total bookings. Right click on the KPIs table, this metrics table you've created, right click and hit new measure. Once you do that, it pops up the formula bar. We title our KPI total bookings equal to, so I'm going to do a count row for total booking, count rows, not count blank, count rows of my hotel data, the fact table. So I'll do a count row of my hotel data, and that's it. So of course you can do count of a column in the data. So if you have an ID column, then you can just do a count of that column. But since I'm interested in knowing how many rows are there in the table, I can simply do count rows. All right. Once you hit enter, this metric has been created. This is it right here. You can, to view, you can just check this box right here. It's going to create a chart. Most time, I wanted to say that most times when you check the box, it will create a column chart. Yeah, but it is better with you visualize this metric using a card. So I'm going to change that to a card selected. I'll click on this card to change that column to card. So from this card, you can see that we have 101,000 total bookings. All right. Now the next metric, I hope you understand this, right? The next metric that we want to calculate is the total confirmed bookings, right? Booking volumes, booking volume. I called it booking volume. That is the count of the confirmed bookings we have. So when you go back to the dashboard and we check the table view of our Power BI desktop, you notice that there is a particular column that says is cancelled. Let's select data, hotel data, to see that column. I think this column right here, where is it? Is cancelled. Is cancelled. So the is cancelled column here shows whether the booking that was made was cancelled or not. So you can see cancelled and not cancelled. And to calculate the booking volume, we need to do a count of confirmed booking, the non-cancelled booking. So I would right click on this metric and title, give it a title, booking volume. All right, so booking volume means that these are the bookings that were actually done and they were not cancelled. Booking volume. So booking volume equal to, so I'm going to do a count row, but since we'll be filtering would on this calculation that we're about to perform, we use calculate. Calculate is a powerful expression or function that allows us to evaluate expression in a context modified by model or by filters rather. So the context modified by filters here is going to be is booking not cancelled. All right. So we are doing a count row also. I'll do a count rows of the hotel data, count rows of the hotel data, where the hotel data, where the is cancelled column. So I just typed is cancelled, then pops this up, where the is cancelled column of the hotel data is equal to not cancelled, right? uh not, is it not cancelled? Let's quickly check again. Cancelled and not cancelled, right? Let me check again. I know I'm going to get an error there because I've not completed that. Is cancelled is, where is it? Yes, not cancelled. Not cancelled. Let's complete that. Let's complete that function. So where this is equal to not cancelled, right? Not cancelled. So that's that, and we can hit enter since we've completed the function now. And to visualize this metric that we've just calculated, we'll do that on a card. So click to enter a card and check the box for booking volume. So of the 101K total bookings, 74K were not cancelled. All right. Now, if I want to know the number of bookings that were cancelled, I can simply do a subtraction or use the same formula, but this time around I was saying cancelled. All right. I think that's the third metric that we want to look at, cancelled bookings. So number of cancelled bookings. I can go ahead and right click. Do I actually need number of cancelled bookings? I will not calculate that metric since we have total bookings and booking volume. You know, number of bookings and number of bookings that were not cancelled. If I know we will need the total, the cancelled, let's just get and calculate it. Let's just calculate the total bookings. I mean, the cancelled bookings rather, because we might need that metric to calculate another metric in the near future. So I have cancelled bookings, cancelled bookings. So cancelled bookings is equal to the same formula using calculate count rows, calculate count rows of the hotel data, where my is cancelled is equal to cancelled. So ensure that you write your cancelled, whatever text you're using in your formula is entered as a string. And how do you know it's entered as a string? You have to wrap it around these double quotes. If you omit the double quotes before and after the word, your function will give you some error, to return error. All right, so with this we can see how many number of cancelled bookings that we have on a card, and that is 27K. All right, so this is the total bookings. This metric measures the booking volume, which is bookings not cancelled, and here are the cancelled bookings. Okay, the next metric that we want to calculate here, let's check it out. The next metric is going to be the average length of stays, average length of stay, which is ALOS, ALOS, average length of stay. So I can use this abbreviation for this metric just to keep it short. So the formula we'll be using here is stays in weekend nights plus stays in weeknights divided by total bookings. Stays in weekend nights plus stays in weeknights divided by total bookings. Let's go ahead and do this in Power BI desktop using DAX. All right, let's do that. So I said I will call it ALOS, ALOS. Right click on metrics, click on new measure, and title your measure ALOS equal to, we'll be using I want to perform, you know, addition and then division, so I'll put them in a bracket. Sum of what? Sum of the week stays in weekday, right? Sum of stays in, no, I'm going to do a count, stays in weekend nights, right, plus stays in weeknights. So I'm doing a count of stays in weekend nights. Is that going to be a count or sum? Let's check that. Let's check that table first. So take this out first, or we'll come back to it. It's going to return an error, but we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. Yeah, that's an error, but that is fine. So come back to stays. I'm trying to see the column right here. Where is the stay? Stays in weeknights and stays in weekend nights. Let's select that column and see what you have there. So stays in weekend nights, that in weeknights, and then we have stays in weekend nights. So These numbers we have here are the number of people that stayed in weeknights and weekend nights. So what that would mean is that we'll be taking the sum of these two columns, the sum of these and the sum of these, then we'll divide it by the total number of bookings. So let's go ahead. It's a sum. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Back to our layout view. So sum of stays in weeknights plus stays in weeknights plus sum of stays in weekend nights. Then we'll be dividing that by what? We'll be dividing that by total bookings. Total bookings. So this is what we would do to arrive at the answer we get. All right. So when we visualize this on a card, let's insert a card and visualize ALOS. We have 266.20K. 266.20K. So we said that the metrics helps us understand how long guests typically stay, which is useful for planning and pricing. Now, when you have this value, sorry, give me a minute. Let me confirm that what we're doing is correct. If we are meant to do a count or a sum, stays in weeknight and stays in weekend night. Um, let's see what's going on there. Trying to check dictionary to be sure that what we've calculated is actually correct. So let me see. Yes, what we've done is actually correct. Yeah, what we've done is actually correct. What we've done is actually correct. So we have 266 points. So we're going to convert these to give me a minute. Okay, I see. So what is going to happen is we will use this metric for we'll use the metric for some to visualize on the charts very soon, because we have done total night stay, which is stays in weeknights plus stays in weekend nights, which is absolutely correct. It makes sense, right? This makes sense. So what I would do right now is to modify this function. Of course, look at the function I used. We've explained during the training that if you're dividing, it's best to use the divide function, because when you do this, should anything, if let's say there's a filter that somebody chooses that makes these total bookings become zero, this will return infinity, which is like a form of an error. So the best way to divide two things is to use the divide function. But I also like to elaborate on this particular function. I like to expand on this function by using some variables. So I want to create a variable called total night stayed, and then I'll use the total night stayed and total bookings to calculate my ALOS. Do you understand? So I will do that right away. So ALOS equal to, using a variable, I'll hold shift key and enter to go to the next line. I want to declare a variable called total night stayed. Total night stayed, right? Total night stayed. So my total night stayed will be equal to the sum of the stays in weeknights plus the sum of the stays in weekend nights. Okay. Now once that sum is taken, the next thing is to, all right. So the next thing is to, do I want to calculate another variable? Yeah, let me add another variable ALOS. The variable is equal to divide. So this is where I want to divide the total night stay, total night stayed by total bookings. Did I call it total night stayed? Yeah, let me see. Total, I hope I spelled everything correctly. Total night stayed, yeah. By total bookings, close the bracket, comma 0, then close the bracket. Okay. I'm still getting some error here. Oh, I see. The reason why I'm getting the error is that this sum was opened, but it was not closed. So I have to close it here. And everything seems good now. All right. That is perfect. Okay. So with this, you can see that with this, we have declared a variable called total night state, and I've declared another variable called allos, and we've calculated the ratio. So the next thing is to return, I'm going to return allos. So I'll return allos, and yeah, that's it. So with this, we have calculated the metric, and it's not going to change. This allos we have here won't change. Okay, so we have a different figure. Let me see. Oh, I see. That was because of the way I calculated it the other time. The division wasn't done clear, so I was surprised to see that high figure. So this is what we have: the sum of total night stay and sum of total weekend night stay divided by the total bookings. The allos is now what? 3.65. 3.65. We would format this later to take out the decimal place. I don't want it to have decimal place. Yeah, because like I said, this value tells us how long guests typically stay. So what we have here, if you round this up, it shows you that guests stay, say for guest stay for 4 days approximately. 4 days. Let's take out decimal places. Let's take out decimal places from the metric worksheet. Let's do this from here. All right, 0. So you can see 4 days typically. So guest stay for 4 days. All right. And if I want, well, I will just leave it at figure 4, because I was going to say if I want to format it as 4 days, we can do the formatting either in function itself or by using the dynamic formatting option, but we'll label it appropriately. For now, let's just leave the figure 4. All right. Yeah, we're making good progress. Let's adjust all of these metrics as we calculate more. All right, cool. Okay, the next metric that we should calculate, let's check the next metric. The next metric we'll be calculating is the weekend versus weekday stay ratio. Weekend versus weekday stay ratio. And what we'll be doing here is to divide the weekend nights divided by the weeknights. And this particular metric will help us to highlight user preferences, and afterwards we are also going to use that information to help target promotions. Now let's go ahead and do this in DAX. Let's go back to Power BI desktop to calculate this metric. It seems after this first set of metrics, I would end the video and start off again. Like I said, this should be done in parts. This very one is getting too long already, so we're going to do it in parts. Okay, so we've done that earlier. We'll do total weekend nights. We'll also do total weekday nights. We've calculated this from the previous function that we did earlier. So let's do similar thing here. Okay, right click and add new measure. So what do we call that metric? Based on the name, we'll call it I'll call it weekend weekday stay ratio. Yeah, that's what I'm going to call it. Weekend weekday stay ratio equal to. So I'll be using some variables here. Also, I'll declare a variable. The first variable I want to declare, I'll call that variable total weekend nights. Total weekend weekend night, that's going to be equal to the sum of I think stay in weekend nights, right? And then I'll declare another variable called total weekday nights, and this is going to be equal to the sum of stay in weekday nights. Yes, that's it. Then I'll also declare another variable called ratio. Ratio is equal to divide of I'm dividing the stay in weekend nights by the stay in weeknight. So um I'll have total I'll have total weekend nights, right? Total weekend nights divided by total weekday nights, and give me 0 if total weekday nights is 0. Then finally we'll be returning ratio. So return ratio, and that's it. So this is the function, or this is the formula that we need to use to evaluate this. Hit enter to see the weekday night stay ratio. Let's visualize the ratio on a card. I'll get my card, and here is the ratio. Yeah, the ratio is 0.38. 0.38. So this is simply the ratio of weekend nights to the ratio of week nights. Yeah, but before we start formatting all these metrics that we are calculating, that will be towards the end of the entire video, once we are done with all the videos. So, but for now, like I said, I want to make this video in different parts. I'll stop this, and we'll continue in the second part of the video. Okay, just make sure you complete this video, because you're going to get a lot of insights from what I'm doing. See you in the next one. Goodbye.